Hi guys, Afro Blue again. Now you might notice there's been a slight change of scenery. The bookcases are back out and I'm really glad to just have everything on display again. Now you might be thinking that there's a Halloween special due out sometime soon, but I've always felt Halloween is a time for a cowardly and superstitious lot. So instead we're going to be looking at Batman Arkham City. Being the sequel to the phenomenal Arkham Asylum, City was released amongst a thick cloud of hype, anticipation, and expectations. Video game and comic fans alike have been anxiously waiting to see if this game could top its predecessor, widely regarded as one of the best games of 2009, if not one of the best games of all time. We'll start with the basics. Arkham City takes place around 6 months after the events of Asylum. Quincy Sharp is now mayor and, under the guidance of Hugo Strange, has sectioned off an entire area of Gotham City as some variety of open-air prison. Within the walls of the newly formed and titled Arkham City, gang wars rage for supremacy and ownership of the streets, with all the big names present. Two-Face, Penguin, and the Joker even having their own personal armies. As Batman, it's your job to infiltrate Arkham City and figure out exactly what Strange's motives are, and to see if you can stop the violence from spiraling further out of control and spilling out into the streets of Gotham. We'll come back to the plot, spoiler-free, I promise, a little later. The gameplay itself has had a few changes since Asylum. For example, gadgets such as the explosive gel can now be deployed during combat as easily as using takedowns. There are also all new gadgets, but again, more on that later. There's kind of a lot of ground to cover here. Along with the implementation of the gadgets into battles, are new combat moves and new enemy archetypes, such as a shielded enemy that must be stunned then leapt upon, bringing some much needed variety and flavour. The groups you'll be throwing down with are generally much larger in number than before, and Batman is now able to counter 2 attacks at once. At its roots, the combat is still incredibly simple and intuitive, yet the addition of quick-fire gadgets and new foes adds an extra, and sometimes optional, layer of tactics, planning, and skill to fistfights without breaking the rhythm the first game's encounters established. The biggest change has been to Batman's movement and agility around the environment. The grapnel gun now has a much further reach, and utilizing that, along with other gliding mechanics, Bats can now cross from one side of the map to the other in a matter of minutes. There is an immediate benefit to player convenience, and this method of transportation does lend itself to the more open-world hub of the game, yet it also directly contributes to one of the most startling differences between City and Asylum. Arkham Asylum was criticized by some as being ultimately linear in nature, and that every player would have more or less the same experience when playing the game, leaving little room for diversions or distractions. Arkham City addresses this by making the city itself an open-ended gateway to the various areas where a still fairly linear story takes place, yet offering many more side quests and challenges. At the same time, it was also said that in Arkham Asylum, the institution itself was the star of the game, not Batman. The Asylum oozed history, little details, and an absorbing atmosphere. This was the villain's territory, and Batman would have to explore it slowly, cautiously, and for the most part, on foot. In Arkham City, however, the criminals are on the streets of Gotham, Batman's turf, switching the focus completely. And with Batman being able to take a variety of fast and efficient routes across his stomping grounds, you find yourself moving at a much faster and more confident pace, not stopping to take in the small details or appreciate every area of the map. Linear has become somewhat of a dirty word in gaming, but I feel it suits certain games far better than an open world, or indeed a sandbox. Every encounter in Asylum was placed there on purpose. The developers knew which point in the game you would be at, which gadgets would be available to you, and they also knew that this was your only route,
So they took full advantage of that, and the result was a set of very memorable, fun, yet tense exchanges between you and your opponents. City's environment and layouts in general lack that in order to serve multiple purposes to multiple Batmen. As a result, the game as a whole loses a considerable degree of its edge, and Arkham City just feels less structured than Arkham Asylum did. On the plus side, the change has allowed for many more of Riddler's challenges. There are trophies, riddles, and secrets littered everywhere, and it really adds a great degree of replay value. I just find it a shame that it's at this point you get to know your surroundings intimately, and not during the main story. On the subject of replay value and the Riddler, Rocksteady have gone to some length to ensure this game is not merely a weekend rental. As said, there are over 400 of Riddler's challenges in the main game, but the combat and predator maps are also back, in greater number and difficulty. The achievements and stats for these challenges are also unique to each character, so you'll effectively be completing these as Batman and Catwoman, with Robin DLC for those of us who pre-ordered, and Nightwing DLC confirmed to be on the way. There is also a New Game Plus option that gives you a second run through the story, but with all of your upgrades and gadgets from the start on what's basically the hardest difficulty setting. As mentioned briefly there, Catwoman is a playable character this time around, and even has multiple story segments. Well, unless you buy the game second hand, then you'll have to buy her as DLC. Anyway, Catwoman is far more agile than Batman, but also far more fragile. It doesn't take many hits to put the cat to sleep, so perfecting her requires a certain grace and elegance that is a refreshing change from Batman's more blunt and heavy approach. As for the story itself, without giving anything away, it seemed to lack focus. It certainly was not as gripping or engaging as Arkham Asylum because, well, as said, in Asylum you were in Joker's territory. Now it's the other way around. In addition, apart from a select few political prisoners, there are no innocent lives in the balance. In the previous game, you would constantly stumble across dead guards and save other employees of the madhouse, but this time around, really, the only innocents are thrown in as what seems to be an afterthought. Too many characters try to share the limelight here. I couldn't tell if my ultimate enemy was the Joker, Hugo Strange, or insert spoiler here, leading to a slightly meandering and confusing path through the game, with characters such as Two-Face getting even less screen time than he did in The Dark Knight. Towards the end, the body count severely shot up, and I felt like I was watching the ending of Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. See, when I saw that movie in the cinema, everyone kept getting up to leave, only for another scene to play, to the point where, once the credits did actually roll, everyone sat in their seats for a few moments, nervously looking at each other before deciding to clear out. In a similar fashion, I kept arriving at points that I honestly thought would be the endgame, only for more to happen. I would also add that the story missed a huge opportunity to capitalize on the relationship between Batman and the Joker, though there is a much appreciated nod towards the killing joke at the end. Don't get me wrong, the game is fantastic and a lot of fun. As far as the gameplay is concerned, it improves upon the simply brilliant formula of the original. The new gadgets seamlessly slide into Batman's arsenal, as if you'd had them all along, and damn do you feel powerful. The graphics are an inspired mix between realism and the art of the comics. There is a level of precision, detail, and meticulous care on every single character model and animation. The sea itself seems to be a living, breathing, populated area with distinctive landmarks and makes for a great playground. The music is cleverly employed sparingly. The majority of the time, it is just you and the ambient sounds of the environment, be it thugs making small talk amongst each other, the sound of the wind, or simply your own footsteps. When there is then a dramatic moment and a large musical piece kicks in, it's all the more powerful for it. Some games make the mistake of assaulting you with noise 24/7, but Arkham City realizes when a hush can have the same impact as a bang. hand on heart, I believe the problems with this game are not entirely problems with the game, but problems with myself and my own expectations, coupled with the advertising and hype heaved upon the release, topped off by my insistence on playing the original again, as well as rewatching the animated series and rereading probably the last year's worth of Batman comics in the run-up to its launch. Arkham Asylum has a certain something, a little spark that means I will play through it again and again and again until I am no longer physically able to play video games, a day I sincerely hope will never come. Though Arkham City is technically superior in almost every conceivable way, and I will replay City, just as I will spend countless hours trying and failing to beat the combat and Predator rooms, it's just not got that same impact on me. I would liken it to how I feel about Sonic 2 as opposed to, say, Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Reasonably, logically, and rationally, I should prefer Sonic 3 and Knuckles and concede that it is superior to Sonic 2, but my heart just lies with Sonic 2. The exact same law applies to Arkham Asylum versus Arkham City. I guess bottom line is to buy Arkham City. You shouldn't be disappointed at all, and with the sheer quantity of side quests, Riddler trophies, and challenge rooms, you're guaranteed to get your money's worth. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Afro Blue. Until next time.
One word of advice. Run.